Okay, let's just jump right in. I want to start with a question. What if the greatest threat to your leadership isn't opposition or incompetence or even, a lack of opportunity? What if it's a quiet, fundamental misunderstanding of what leadership actually is?
That is the really uncomfortable question the source material opens with. It just forces you to look
It
inward.
really does.
Because most professionals, and you listening can probably relate, you spend years getting ready to move up. You're gaining skills, building influence, getting credibility,
Even all the right things.
all the right things. But then the sources point out this huge pitfall. When the actual weight of responsibility hits, all that external prep just feels hollow, and that leads straight to burnout, or worse, compromise.
I found that so relatable. The source is basically arguing this isn't a failure of your skill, it's a structural
A
failure.
structural one, yes.
We've been trained to lead from the outside in. We focus on charisma, on performance, on the things people can see. But that whole model, it just can't hold the real pressure.
Exactly. And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We want to explore this framework for a kind of leadership that lasts, what the sources call the divine architecture.
I like that phrase, divine architecture.
It's like an ancient blueprint, you know?
Mhm.
It's built on these fixed, almost eternal principles, not on whatever the latest leadership trend is. And it insists, absolutely insists, on building from the inside out.
Okay, so what does that mean inside out?
It means that real authority doesn't flow from your influence or your title. It flows from a deep, profound sense of accountability.
And here's the premise that just it sets the stage for everything. The source says leadership doesn't collapse first because of a bad strategy.
No.
Long before the organization fails or the team falls apart, the leader's internal structure has already been compromised. The failure begins quietly. It starts with your conviction.
That internal erosion, that's what this whole blueprint is designed to prevent.
So if modern leadership prizes things like, visibility and speed, what are the sources prioritizing instead? It seems like a direct contrast.
It's a complete inversion of our modern priorities. The sources are so clear on this, they insist on a specific order.
Okay.
It's character before capacity. It's your calling before your credibility. And, this is the big one, the central idea, stewardship before status.
Stewardship before status.
If you ignore that sequence, if you try to build your influence just on how competent you are, you're building on a really fragile foundation.
It's like the sources are saying that competence is the engine, but character is the chassis.
That's a great way to put it.
You can have the most powerful engine in the world, but if the frame is weak, you're going to crash at the first sharp turn. And everyone's going to see it was a failure of integrity all along.
And we see those failure points everywhere. The
Yeah.
sources are really clear about the consequences.
Like what?
Well, for one, you get burnout in your highest performers because they can't figure out why success feels so empty. You see ethical erosion.
Right, when the pressure of the moment is bigger than your conviction.
Exactly. And then maybe the most dangerous one of all, drift.
Drift. What do they mean by that?
That slow, almost invisible slide. It's when leadership stops being about a higher purpose and it becomes self-serving.
Mhm.
When you start listening only to your own ego.
So let's nail down that central idea then, stewardship. How do the sources redefine the entire role of a leader around that single concept?
Well, in this architecture, leadership is stewardship. It's just this deep understanding that your role, your resources, your influence, all of it is an entrusted responsibility.
Entrusted, not earned, not owed.
Entrusted. And it's held before a higher accountability. When a leader makes that shift from feeling entitled to their role to feeling entrusted with it, all the noise just disappears. You get this deep, quiet clarity.
It makes me think of running a startup with investor money versus your own personal funds. When it's borrowed or entrusted, the rules of accountability are completely different. You're not the owner.
You're the manager. You're the steward.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The sources use this ancient term, oikonomos. It means household steward. This person manages the entire estate, makes huge decisions, but their authority is delegated. It's derivative.
Yeah.
And if you look at the number one requirement for this steward, it's not massive growth or a big reputation.
It's what?
It's simply to be found faithful. And that completely redefines success. It moves it from something you can see on the outside to something rooted in your internal integrity.
That focus on faithfulness, on delegated authority, it brings us right to the structure of the model itself. The sources use this really striking metaphor, the backbone and the horizon.
Yes.
How do those two pieces fit together?
So the backbone, That's your foundation of moral resilience. It's your spiritual conviction. It's that inner courage you need to stand firm when all the pressure is on.
And this isn't just, self-confidence or bravado.
Not at all. The sources are clear. This courage is rooted in something outside yourself,
Yeah.
a sense of security that comes from a higher calling.
You see this in historical figures who just stood against the current. The source material points to someone like Daniel, facing, existential pressure, who just refused to compromise his core beliefs.
His strength was settled conviction. It's not a strategy. It's who he was.
And that ancient principle, be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God is with you. The strength there is coming from an external promise, not your internal ego. It grounds you.
It does. But, and this is a critical warning in the sources, conviction alone is not enough. Backbone without vision just hardens into rigidity or stubbornness.
It becomes reactive instead of purposeful.
Exactly.
Okay, so if the backbone is about standing firm, the horizon has to be about seeing forward.
That's it. It's forward clarity. It's the ability to look past all the immediate chaos and move toward a bigger defined purpose.
The sources stress that this isn't just about, personal ambition or a clever 5-year plan.
No, those skills are useful, but this horizon is defined as the discernment of a redemptive purpose. It gives meaning to the struggle you're in right now.
There's that ancient warning, where there is no vision, the people perish. That's not just about lacking a strategic plan. It sounds more like a fundamental loss of meaning.
It is. It leads to aimless activity. Think of Abraham, leaving everything familiar not because he had a detailed map, but because he trusted the one who was calling him.
That vision can transform leadership from just, routine maintenance into a real mission.
But here's the other side of the coin. Vision without the backbone, without the courage and conviction to actually follow through, it just dissolves under pressure. It's just a nice idea that collapses when things get hard.
So the genius here is the integration of the two. You need the courage to stand firm in your truth, that's the backbone, while you're moving relentlessly toward your purpose, the horizon.
You can't separate them. If you do, the whole structure either collapses inward or it just loses its way.
When we talk about building this kind of integrated structure, we have to talk about the process. Our culture rewards speed. How fast can you get promoted? How fast can you scale?
Right.
But the sources describe a pattern that's completely countercultural. Formation precedes platform.
That is a radical idea for modern career progression. But the sources are so consistent on this point. God is far less concerned with how quickly a leader acts.
Than with how deeply they've been shaped.
Yes, how deeply. It's a consistent thread. Moses is away from power for 40 years. David gets anointed, but then spends years hiding in caves, learning patience, managing small things, before he ever manages a kingdom.
Even Jesus. 30 years of hidden, quiet obedience before 3 years of public ministry. The time in obscurity is what builds the load-bearing structure for the public role.
That really illustrates what the sources call the Joseph principle. His ability to run this massive supply chain for an entire nation didn't come from a degree.
No, it came directly from his integrity and his faithfulness in small, unglamorous jobs. Managing a household, running a prison.
Authority in this model is a consequence of proven stewardship. It's not the source of it. If you skip that hidden formation, you end up on a public platform without the internal strength to handle the pressure.
Okay, but I have to push back a little here. This can sound a bit idealistic, especially in a complex, competitive world. What do the sources say about the need for actual skill? Can integrity alone save a bad strategy?
That is a crucial distinction, and the sources make it. They absolutely recognize you need skill, you need capacity. They just insist that skills are not the foundation.
So what are they?
Skills are like scaffolding. They're absolutely necessary when you're building. They're useful for performance, but they are not the load-bearing walls. They are temporary aids, not the bedrock.
So the storm reveals the truth.
The storm reveals the truth.
It's like that ancient principle about testing foundation. The floodwaters don't care about your quarterly returns. They test the bedrock. And the storms of leadership, ethical crises, cultural pressure, they reveal if your structure is built on competence alone, which is sand, or on conviction, which is rock.
Competence, without that deep obedience, like King Saul's reign, it might give you a brief win, but it cannot last. The sources are clear that integrity is what guides you. And the cost of rushing that process, of neglecting that internal architecture, is structural failure. It's compromise, burnout, and drift.
You prioritize the scaffolding over the bedrock.
That's it.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? How do you take this ancient blueprint, this divine architecture, and actually start building it into your life today? We have to turn this insight into lived reality.
And the sources give us two practical pathways. The first one, it requires some ruthless honesty. It's called the Stewardship Avoidance Inventory.
An internal audit, forcing us to see where we're actively neglecting what's been entrusted to us.
It is. The sources show that leaders often avoid the very responsibilities that require sacrifice or discomfort, like the servant in the parable who buried his talent because he was afraid. The goal of this inventory is to overcome that fear and just name what you're avoiding.
Okay, so practically, what am I putting on that list?
Well, first, you name what's been entrusted to you right now. It could be mentoring a junior employee, having a hard conversation with a client, even just dedicating time to your own reflection.
The things that are easy to push off.
Exactly. Then you identify where hesitations act, fear of failure, a desire for comfort, self-preservation, has led you to postpone or avoid it. For example, you know you need to delegate a tough project to develop a team member, but you avoid it because you're afraid of a temporary dip in performance. That goes on the list.
That makes the whole idea of stewardship so immediate and tangible. It forces you to act on the entrusted thing, not just the visible thing you enjoy doing.
That's the point. It forces truthful self-examination. And that leads to the second pathway, which is developing a leadership calling statement.
Which I'm guessing is a lot deeper than a mission statement on your resume.
Much deeper. It's directional, not just aspirational. It answers three questions. One, what is my fundamental identity in this role? Two, what specific entrusted responsibility do I carry? And three, what specific obedience is required of me right now?
So instead of saying, my mission is to become VP of sales, it's more like,
It might be. My responsibility is the ethical oversight of this team, ensuring every decision serves the long-term health of our culture, even if it costs me short-term approval.
right. It ensures your decisions flow from that stated obedience, from that higher accountability, and not from ambition or the need to be liked.
Precisely. And the final reflection here is just to remember that leadership capacity is scalable. It's not instant.
Faithfulness in those small things, the items on your avoidance inventory, that's the true measure of your readiness. You're not being tested on your future capacity. You're being tested on your present faithfulness.
That's the bedrock.
So we've just completed a deep dive into this architecture of leadership. We reframed the whole pursuit of status into the discipline of stewardship. We anchored it in the twin pillars of conviction, the backbone and purpose, the horizon.
And we saw why those years of character formation in obscurity have to come before public capacity.
And the final implication here is actually one of immense liberation. When your authority flows from accountability to a higher purpose, it frees you from the fear of what people think. It frees you from that tyranny of comparison and performance.
It lets you lead with deep integrity and peace.
So we want to leave you with a final, provocative question drawn straight from the sources, something for you to mull over this week.
If leadership is not defined by how far you advance, but by what you are entrusted to carry, what responsibility has been placed in your care that you have postponed, diminished, or avoided?
That question isn't an accusation. It's really an awakening. It's an invitation to start building that backbone today.
That's been a deep dive into the sources on the divine architecture of enduring leadership.
We'll catch you next time.